Welcome to Norway. It's a long distance, but I hope to reach you well with this presentation where we are going to talk about PMIR with ECVET as a tool into it. There are 4 different elements which we would like to address. We are using learning outcomes. We are creating a qualification description. We are preparing multilingual options, and we have the possibility of recognition of learning towards certifications. So these 4 elements will follow us through the presentation. We are using 2 European tools. It is the EQF, the European Qualification Framework, and the ECVET, the European Credit System for Vocational Education and Training. The EQF is implemented in most European countries, and it has 8 levels of learning outcomes according to the complexity and responsibility linked to the functioning in these levels. And if we look at the learning outcome definition, it is the results of any kind of learning process in terms of knowledge, skills, and competencies. And they should be acquired through prior learning, through formal, non-formal, or informal learning within or outside of formal learning settings, also including work-based learning. Very broad. And when we are identifying the learning outcomes, they are organized in logical units so that we can create a matrix targeting education and assessment. In the ECVET qualification, we are using the learning outcomes to describe according to the EQF key descriptors. And the vocabulary will have to be according to the EQF level, meaning the complexity. And the learning outcomes are then the building blocks in the total unit and aggregated into the whole qualification. And then certification will be based on these learning outcomes so that we have the individual assessed against the qualification and with the possibility of obtaining a certificate afterwards. So when we are doing this, we are using the EQF with 8 levels. We are recognizing learning. We are preparing for a possible career guidance approach. And we are opening flexible learning pathways, combining vocational training, higher education, and work-life experiences. And this is, in some way, the basis for an individual's professional mobility. When we're using ECVET to construct the PMIR approach, we are also using a 3rd instrument, the skills bank. And in that case, we are using the learning outcomes as the common currency in the exchanges, in the comparison and the validation. That means here we can use, as said, the competence, knowledge, and skills, and we use them to cross between sectors, countries, and cultures. Using this with the multilingual tool for comparison, we can see what have been the individual's educational and training background in another setting, and we're looking for that into a new setting. And with the skills tube addition, we can also record video takes to show the competence and the skills of the individual. Moving directly into the PMIR approach, we can see the Italian version of the matrix. And in parallel, we will find the English version, and they are the same content across the whole qualification description, and with a deeper level, more in detail, covering competencies, knowledge, and skills. This one is the Italian dive, And then we have the English dive into the matrix. And we could have the Spanish, we could have the German, we could have the Norwegian, and so on. When we are using this, we can have the competence assessments in the same run, and where we are using the logical units with knowledge, skills, and competences. We have the recognition of prior learning in the self-assessment procedure. We can have external validators looking into what the individual can document, and we can do that in a range of multilingual solutions. So we have here 15 different languages and a few more in the pipeline. So with this multilingual assessment, we can have the situation where the individual is using his or her best known language, the mother tongue, and the employer can use his or her mother tongue. So if we have, in this case, the English and Italian, we can switch between them and have the same output from the assessments. And we can create multilingual portfolios, CVs, and the possible passports in some occasions. And we can store the individual in the database, and where we can have an update, or the individual can have an update on his or her professional developments from the database. So when we have this multilingual solution, we can have bilingual, trilingual, quadrilingual, or multilingual versions of all the matrix elements where we have the parallel translations. The way we do this is to have the questions in Skills Bank on one side, and we have the answering side with the red, the yellow, and the greens, indicating I'm an amateur and I'm an expert, ticking off on this scale. And same when we do that in English, we will have exactly the same tick off for the employer side in Italian. That means we have a very good exchange between the two languages, or between the languages involved, so that we can work very multilingually here. Another case is from the landscaping sector, and where we have qualifications in the entrepreneurship, and where we, after having had the assessment round, we can move on and we can have the profile of an individual, so that we can see where are the individual's strengths and weaknesses, and also having that documented in a spider graph. That means we can have the individual assessed against the qualification matrix, and we can select if we would have it as in a spider graph, in a profile, in a CV type, or in a certificate type of output. That means we have lots of nice options in the PMIR and in other coming project situations. I hope you have got a quick insight into PMIR, ECVET, and Skills Bank. And for further questions, I invite you to take contact, and we can possibly clarify any open questions you may have. Thank you very much.